Welcome, my friends, and let me regale you with a tale of an orphan girl who overcame a life of loneliness and hardship to find her place in the world. Enjoy the story.
At 21, Sarah Johnson sat alone in her small studio apartment, staring at the peeling yellow wallpaper. An orphan raised at St. Mary's Home for Girls, Sarah had known loneliness and hardship for most of her life. She knew nothing about her biological parents or why they had abandoned her, and the thought of it filled her eyes with tears. A memory of Miss Evelyn, the elderly caretaker at the orphanage, surfaced in her mind. Sarah had been just 6 years old when she asked the question that had haunted her young heart. Miss Evelyn, why don't I have a mommy and daddy like the other girls? Miss Evelyn's kind, wrinkled face softened with sympathy as she knelt and held Sarah's tiny hands. My dear child, you were left on our doorstep as a baby, bundled in a basket with no note, no name. But you are a precious gift from above. You may not have your parents, but you have a family here at St. Mary's, and we will always look after you. Despite Miss Evelyn's words, Sarah's childhood was difficult. The other girls at the orphanage were often mean and competitive, fighting for the attention of the caretakers. Sarah preferred to fade into the background, avoiding the constant drama. By the time she aged out of the system at 18, Sarah was thrust into the world with no family and no support system. But with Miss Evelyn's help, she found a modest apartment and a job to survive. One day, after months of struggling to find steady work, Sarah came across a newspaper ad. Help wanted at Shudder, a high-end dining establishment. No experience necessary. This seemed like a stroke of luck for Sarah, who had faced rejection after rejection. With her hair brushed and dressed in her best second-hand blouse, Sarah walked confidently into Shudder, determined to prove herself. However, her optimism quickly faded when she met Brad Thompson, the manager. Brad ruled the restaurant with an iron fist, docking pay for the smallest infractions and keeping the waitstaff's tips for himself. Sarah quickly realized how oppressive working at Shudder could be. Brad was cruel and dishonest, and the environment was tense. Yet Sarah found a friend in Mike Romero, a talented chef who, despite his culinary degree, was stuck in a dead-end kitchen job. Mike had dreams of making a name for himself, and the two bonded over their shared sense of yearning for something more. One fateful Friday, the restaurant was packed, and Sarah was assigned to wait on Senator Horace Davis, a regular with a notorious temper. Throughout the night, he berated her, making lewd comments and sending her back and forth with endless demands. But the night took a dramatic turn when the senator suddenly began choking and gasping for breath. As Brad froze in fear, Sarah's instincts kicked in. Remembering the first aid training she had learned at the orphanage, she rushed to the senator's side, saving his life by performing CPR until paramedics arrived. Despite her heroic actions, Brad was furious, accusing Sarah of trying to manipulate the situation for a tip. He fired her on the spot. Heartbroken and humiliated, Sarah left the restaurant feeling utterly defeated. Mike, however, was there to comfort her, reminding her of the courage she had shown and telling her that she was a hero. 3 days later, Sarah received an unexpected knock on her door. It was Vince Moretti, the owner of a popular restaurant in town. He had seen the viral video of Sarah saving the senator's life and wanted to offer her a position at his new establishment. He saw her integrity and compassion, qualities he valued in his staff. Sarah was overwhelmed by the offer, but also thought of Mike. She asked Vince to consider hiring him as well, knowing how talented he was. Vince agreed to meet with Mike, and soon enough, they were both given the opportunity of a lifetime. 1 month later, Sarah stood proudly in her crisp uniform at the opening of Vincenzo's Ristorante. The restaurant buzzed with energy, and Sarah felt a deep sense of pride in how far she had come. Gone was the timid orphan. In her place stood a confident leader, respected by her peers and trusted by Vince. Mike thrived as the sous chef, finally able to showcase his talent. Their bond had grown stronger, and for the first time, Sarah saw the possibility of a future filled with love and fulfillment. Even Senator Davis had received his comeuppance, resigning in disgrace after the viral video of his drunken behavior led to public outrage. Brad, too, had been fired after his misdeeds were exposed, forced into a lowly position in the kitchen, exactly where he had once relegated Mike. As Sarah welcomed the first guests to Vincenzo's, she felt a sense of peace. She had a career she loved, a true friend in Mike, and a place she could finally call home. The dark shadows of her orphan past had receded, replaced by the bright promise of a new beginning. For the first time in her life, Sarah Johnson was excited to see what tomorrow would bring.